Hello, hello, everybody. Let me get myself together. Give me one moment. Hello, hello, everybody. Glad y'all are here. Let me send this out. Put this on my story. Give me one. Y'all, welcome to Our Vote Counts, everyone. Today we are having a town hall with Mr. Donald Looney Jr., who is running for a House seat in the state of Missouri, District 3063. For those of you who don't know where District 63 is, that is the
I'll put that back.
St. Louis area. I know it says it's Wentzville.
Yes, Wentzville is I'm about 30 minutes west of St. Louis.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
So yes, so he's a St. Louis Missourian, not to be confused with a Kansas City. I found out those are two different people.
Yeah, two very different people.
All right. So let me remind you and everyone else who we are. We are Our Vote Counts, a nonpartisan coalition of citizens from diverse states and backgrounds, united by a shared commitment to empower voters, promote candidates of integrity promote candidates who stand for integrity, inclusion, and accountability in these upcoming elections. Through voter education, candidate outreach, and community engagement, we support leaders who are ready to serve the people, not special interests. By working across state lines and elevating local and national issues, we aim to increase voter turnout, inform public dialogue, and build momentum for lasting change. Our vote counts as more than just a name. It's a promise, a movement, and a rallying cry for democracy. Together, we are building a stronger future, one informed vote at a time. So again, I'd like to thank you all for joining me tonight to speak with Mr. Donald Looney, who is running for a state house seat in the state of Missouri, District 63. Let me tell y'all a little bit about what I found out about Mr. Looney. Let's see. You
Uh-oh.
can you hear me?
Oh yeah, I can hear you. I said,
Okay.
uh-oh.
Okay. Well, I found you are from Wentzville, Missouri, and you are a
Hmm.
longtime advocate for working families. You
Yes.
serve as Wentzville Township Committee man on
Hmm.
the St. Charles County Democratic Central Committee and co-chair of the Legislative Committee for UAW Local 2250. So now you're going to have to
Hmm.
give us some insight on that. Your
Okay.
priorities include strengthening public education, expanding affordable health care, and protecting workers' rights. You are running to give everyday Missourians a strong voice in Jefferson City. So tell us a little bit about your work as a committee man.
Okay. So essentially, the way that works is that everybody knows that the National Democratic Party, like the DNC, and then each state has its own state party. And so, where I'm a committee man for is at the county level, each county has what they call a central committee. And so, I'm the chairman of the central committee, and the township that I represent in the county is the Wentzville Township.
Okay. All right. So you already are doing the work. You
Yes.
just stepping up a step.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay.
Essentially, I spent the last few years. I mean, at this level, we are essentially, the county arm of the Democratic Party. We operate, out within, but outside of that, also like we play by our own rules as long as we don't, violate any bylaws or charters or anything like that. So we taken a unique approach to recruiting candidates, training candidates, and just trying to get all these races in our area contested because for the longest time they went uncontested. That's been the majority of the efforts that we put forth in the last 4 years.
Which
Um,
lead me to my next question because in the research that my team has done, they did not put an incumbent. Is there an incumbent for your district?
so funny story, there was, but she decided to run for another race, and so now I have a new opponent who is someone from who represented a previous district a few years back, uh, but he lost there in that primary, and now he's coming over here to fill this seat that is going to be vacated by the current incumbent, or at least he thinks he wants to fill it. But he'll
Exactly.
have to fight for it at the ballot box.
Well, be lucky that you only have one other opponent because um, there was a candidate we had on who was running for Maryland's 5th district. And
Hmm.
that district had been historically um, represented by Steny Hoyer, and
Okay.
he has decided to retire. Now, Steiny didn't say that at first. So there was a nice little pool of people. But once he decided to retire, we talked
Hmm.
25, 30 people are now trying to run for that district.
Yeah. Yeah.
So be lucky
It,
you only
it
got one
happens.
other opponent.
Oh, I'm thankful. I'm thankful.
All right. So, Donald, let me tell you how we do things around here. So, we have
Hmm.
about 5 topics that we will try to reach tonight. Each topic has about 2 or 3 questions. In between
Okay.
those, we do what's called a rapid fire, which I will pose questions to you that have quick one word or yes or no answers to them.
Okay.
And we're gonna have a little bit of fun and learn all about why you decided to run for a state seat in Missouri. Why now was the
All
time?
right.
All
All
right.
right.
So I just want to remind everyone that's watching, if you have any questions, please request up. Uh, hey everyone. Hi. We have one of our candidates who've been on here quite a few times in the audience. Hello, Miss Xavier. Um, But if you have any questions for Donald, please request up or put them in the chat. I will pose those questions to him. Make sure you're tapping the screen and sharing this out. We appreciate all the engagement. And so I'm going to go into our first topic, which is about labor and workers, which
Okay.
deals with your UAW. Okay, so given your role in the UAW Local 2250 leadership, how would you translate union priorities like stronger contracts, wages, and benefits into specific legislation in the Missouri's House, specifically for workers outside of unionized industries?
Okay. Um, well, I think that because I am a proud dues paying member of the UAW, if you just look back through history, a lot of the things that the UAW fought for, historically were written into law. They became laws as part of the, national, the NLRB and the way they oversee workers' rights and things of that nature. And then on the other hand, you have what we like to call the UAW bump or the UAW effect. Most recently, we participated in a stand-up strike where we took a strategic approach to striking against the big three automakers, and we got record gains in that contract, be it healthcare, wage increases, conversion to temporary workers, benefits, and things of that nature. And not long after that, you saw many, many, many auto companies and manufacturers giving out raises up to 10%. And if you just go back and look at, 22, 23, I think that was 23, you can see that, there's evidence of that. So my approach to legislation would pretty much be the same thing. I'm a part of a very strong union and we support other unions. We're out in the community supporting other workers who are striking or other workers who are trying to organize and things of that nature. I would just bring that same energy to the halls of legislature because every issue that you talk about at the ballot box is a workers' right issue. Working people are the ones who feel the burden from tax increases. We're the ones who feel the brunt from these tariffs. The healthcare cuts, all of these things. We feel it at the kitchen table first. And when we sitting down trying to figure out if we got enough money to get to the end of the month, what's happening in those halls of legislature are truly impactful on that.
Absolutely. Now, the UAW is actively trying to expand organizing efforts in Missouri auto sector, as you were just
hmm
talking about. So, what is your position on state policies that either support or hinder union organizing, and would you back measures to make it easier for workers to unionize?
But that's what the UAW is all about. I mean, that's
Okay.
that's the reason how I got into politics. I've always been aware and been somewhat of a nerd with politics, even back to social studies. As far back as the fourth and fifth grade when,
Hmm.
the late great Jesse Jackson was running for office, right?
Exactly.
Um, but
You telling your
getting
age?
here, yeah, telling my age. Um, but when I joined the UAW and saw that our union actually had a role in politics, and then learning UAW history and seeing how much we impacted, like a lot of people don't know that the UAW is very heavily involved with Dr. Martin Luther King and the the March on Washington, the organization against the sanitization work for the sanitization workers in Memphis. He had a little office that they used to let him use at our UAW headquarters out at Black Lake. And that's just one example of how UAW has been on the side of our people, making sure that our vote counts. See what I did there? Doing
Yes.
those things. So, my role in that, what I do specifically is I'm the head of our legislative committee.
Okay.
So all of our political action, I organize our membership and get them involved. Whether it's going to a rally at the Capitol, whether one of our endorsed candidates needs some boots on the ground for some grassroots activities. Sometimes, vetting some of these candidates to seeing if they are worthy of a UAW endorsement and then sending that information on ahead. So it kind of, it's and then I could do a lot of different stuff too. Like I've done a lot of things, but my primary focus is just kind of working and organizing our membership, educating our membership about legislation that could affect us at the kitchen table, things of that nature.
Now, how aware are members of the UAW that you're running for a congressional seat? Um, well, not a congressional seat, a state seat.
Yeah, I was going to say a
And
state seat now, don't, but from your mouth to
I
God's
mean, well,
ears, you
it's
know what I'm
still
saying?
your
But
Congress. It's the Congress of the state.
right,
Um,
right.
but I wanted to make it clear that you're
Yeah.
running for a representative seat,
Hmm.
and how supportive have they been?
Well, most of the membership within the state is aware because we all work together. You know,
Hmm.
because when we have a gubernatorial race or a Senate race, those are statewide races here. So we all coordinate across the state to make sure that our endorsed candidates are getting a big push. Um, I've been vetted properly, and I am a UAW endorsed candidate now, so I'm proud of that. But that being a help, you know, those same efforts will be utilized, you know, to support me. Now, I won't know what those efforts are because I had to take off the legislative committee chair hat while I'm a candidate because there's a potential conflict of interest. But, you know, based on the work that we've done for other candidates in the past, I know I'll have that support and that backing. And that feels really good because one of the things that we talk about often is that we just don't have enough working people who care about real issues, you know, in the halls of legislature. And our union is always, you know, encouraging us, provoking us even to get involved in all levels of government, from, you know, school board races all the way up to the presidential race.
Absolutely. Now, because of your work that you've already done in this, what do you find is still lacking? What hasn't been addressed
Well,
when it comes to unions in Missouri?
for unions, well, right now, and I'll make it bigger. I'll talk about working people in general.
Mhm.
But right now, we have a Congress that is constantly trying to attack what they call entitlement programs, right? But we know as Social Security and Medicaid. And if you get up out of your bed for all of your adult life and go and work at somebody else's job, right? And, you know, when we're at war or when the economy's down, these government officials are coming out saying, hey, get out there, spend your money, keep going to work, so on and so forth. We got to keep the economy moving, right? So we know that our work is what keeps the wheels of this economy going. And we spend 30 to 40, sometimes maybe even 50 years in the workforce taking care of these people. At the end of our lives, a lot of our elders and seniors don't have a plan because they've taken away pensions,
Hmm.
they've taken away retirement funds. They barely want to pay for active employees' health care, let alone retired employees' health care.
Right.
So, so what I'm going to get to here is I think the thing that's lacking right now, I would say, is retirement security.
Okay.
You
Okay.
know, we should be compensated fairly for giving our lives to any you know vocation, right? Whether you're flipping burgers at McDonald's or you're a dean at Princeton or president of the United States, all labor has value and we should all be compensated for it.
Absolutely. Our candidate that was on yesterday, they said if you are 70 years old and you are still here, you shouldn't have to pay for nothing.
Not for nothing.
Not for
You did
nothing.
your
You can
part.
put your time in.
Yes, you did your part.
Exactly.
And who knows, you know, and a lot of our seniors in our they still doing their part. They still at that age taking care of their kids and grandkids and maybe even some great grandkids. You know,
Absolutely.
so we got to consider all of that. Like those, you know, age. How they say age is nothing but a number. I mean, when it comes to that age in this economy, a lot of folks can't even retire at 65. That's a dream for folks to be
Yeah.
able to retire at the age of 65. You
Absolutely.
know, it's getting rough out here. So we gotta lock that in. We got to make sure that our seniors are taken care of, that those who came before us are taken care of. Um, and what would make it easier if some of them would, you know, be more um, willing to let some of this younger energy, some of this younger vibrancy step into these roles of leadership. You know, but right now we got a bunch of people trying to hold on to seats, right? And you mentioned I was telling my age. You know, one thing that I say on the ground here in the county and in the city where I work is that I'm just trying to set things up so the next generation won't have to rebuild it all the way over. Like I have no, this is not a lifelong ambition for me. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I got some targets and some goals I want to hit, and then I want to pass this thing on to the next generation because uh, they're going to have to take on this fight. You know, it's never good. Corporate greed and these billionaires are always going to do the things that they do, right? And then they always going to look at us and make our people the scapegoat. regardless of where you stand or what side of the aisle you're on. We're going to be the fall guys all the time. And so next generation needs to be ready and equipped to handle those battles.
Absolutely. I don't know why that's hard for some of the older people in these legislative seats to understand that, like, you either did your part or you
Hmm.
ain't did nothing. So step aside. One of the two. Like, you either you either already been put in the work, like you said, and then already put in the work just to pass
Yeah,
the baton for the next generation to set up their
absolutely.
future. But
Absolutely.
some of them just won't relinquish it.
Yeah, yeah.
What you gonna say?
Some of them can't because they may still need that check, that they're getting. They may still need whatever deal they worked out that's got them, taking good care of them. They may not be able to let that go because there's no retirement plan anymore.
Right.
Things are too high. Healthcare and all that stuff is just you can't afford it. So maybe that's why they won't quit. So we got to so they can feel that security when they're stepping away that they know they're going to be taken care of.
Do you know what the benefits for um legislature in Missouri that has been in, let's say, 10 years? Is there some sort of um compensation plan
There
or
are
something for them?
there are some numbers, and usually that's something I keep written down close by because it's kind of complicated to explain it. But
Okay.
but what I will say is that for each legislative house, there's a certain number of years that you have to serve
Hmm.
before you are vested into the retirement program. And
Okay.
then what you're compensated for depends on years of service and all of those kinds of things. But there's a certain level you have to hit before it's locked in and guaranteed.
Understood. All right. So I'm gonna remind everyone, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat or request up. Um, and we would appreciate the audience engagement. Xavier said exactly, we plant the seeds of the trees whose shade we will never enjoy.
Never enjoy. Yeah,
Exactly.
that's a
All
fact.
right. So our next topic is about voting and democracy. Missouri has implemented voter ID requirements. Do you believe these laws strike the right
Mhm.
balance between security and access, or would you advocate for changes?
Well, for those who don't know, right now, Missouri is actually trying to push through some legislation that would be a state version of the SAVE Act that they're fighting over in DC right now. Okay. And we're
Hmm.
worried about that because they have a supermajority here in the state of Missouri. So a lot of the things that they push through and they want to do, um, they can make it happen. The caveat to this bill is because of the way it was written, it would have to go to the ballot and people would have to vote for that. So I'm gonna answer the question in two ways, right? Telling the people of Missouri to be ready because we're gonna have to campaign and work against this, right? That's the activist and the organizer in me talking to me, right? Y'all get ready because we're gonna have to put boots on the ground to educate people about this. And at the same time, we have to be ready to vote. But this is no different than poll taxes.
Right.
This is no different than anything you add to the voting process after the Voting Rights Act was implemented. In my opinion, is no more than a poll tax and is a violation of the United States Constitution. And I wish that all of our legislators saw it that way. Um, I wish that people understood that it was that way. And I wish they also knew the value of their vote, because if the votes weren't valuable, then you wouldn't see voter ID laws passed, right? You wouldn't see these laws like the one in Missouri where they want you now to prove citizenship before you can register to vote, right?
Yeah.
And most people, once you reach an age of accountability where you can actually go to the polls, you may not have seen your birth certificate for for at least 2 years, right? Because the voting age is 18. So the
Yeah.
last time you probably had to physically lay eyes on your birth certificate was if and when you got a driver's license at 16,
Hmm.
right? So now, so you can go and register to vote, you got to go and get that. When before that driver's license that you already verified with your birth certificate would have been sufficient, right? That driver's license that you already verified with whatever documents you took in there to get that would have been sufficient for you to vote. right? And I'm not against anybody saying, hey, prove your identity, right? So you
Yes.
can vote. Not opposed to that. Not opposed to that. But when you say you have to prove citizenship, especially in a county like ours where we have such a small percentage of unnaturalized residents, right, or undocumented residents, however,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you want to call them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, but there has been very little. I want to say like a 0.003 percentage of someone who was undocumented even attempting to vote. And that's not saying they casted a vote that counted in the election. That's just saying they just went in there and tried a 0.003 percentage. So that may be one person 20 years ago, right? This never happens. However, they're putting laws in place to prevent it from happening. But what they're really doing is creating a greater barrier for people to get to the ballot box. Now, how does this infer? You asked me about the union stuff. So how does this affect working people?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm working 5, 6 days a week, if I got to have 2 or 3 jobs to make ends meet, you're telling me now I got to take off work, not just to find the documents, but then to go and replace them if I don't already have them and know where they are. So now I'm losing money to go and spend money on these expensive documents, right? Just so
Mm-hmm.
I can go and vote. And a lot of people may say that I think that's where you get the language where people, well, they just gonna do what they gonna do anyway. Not because they don't want to put forth the effort, but they just don't see how they gonna make it work. Because between the jobs, you still got kids that got activities, they got the doctor's appointments, so on and so forth. And you want me to take time from all of that to go and track down my birth certificate
Yeah.
so I can prove I'm a citizen
But
when I
but but
already got a driver's license?
what do you say to people, Donald, who say that this this will shut them up, right? If
Hmm.
everyone is has proven that they are American citizens voting in these
Hmm.
elections, then that takes away their argument that illegals are voting. What do
Well,
you say
then
to
they'll
people
find
who
some.
say that?
So they'll find something else. Because what the reason why I said all that I said is because we know no illegals are voting like that, right? At least
Mhm.
not where I am. I can't speak for anybody else's section of this great nation of ours, right? But where I am, legals aren't voting. So why are we even talking about that, right? That's a red herring or a straw man, right? What you really want to do is make it harder for married persons who have changed their name, right? Because if I move, I got to go register to vote. So now I've changed and I've taken my spouse's name, but my driver's license shows something different than what my birth certificate shows. So now I got to get this changed and that changed. I got to find a marriage certificate. They're putting these barriers in place for those people, along mentioning the hours of work, the elderly who may have to go and get a ride so they can go get all these daughters. And then their caretaker got to take off work to do that. Like it just creates this endless cycle of people who just gonna say, "I forget it."
I,
So
I
the fight
trust
is
me.
worth it.
I
The fight
know.
is worth
I'm
it,
in it.
though.
I'm in it. I am.
Okay.
I currently, my birth certificate does not match my current last name. My
Oh
last
wow.
my last state of residency was North Carolina, which is what ID I have, but I'm now in
Hmm.
Maryland. So I don't even have a
Wow.
Maryland state ID with my birth
Wow.
name on it. So yeah, I know. I don't even know how
Yeah.
this is about to affect me, but it may.
Yeah.
And Deidre,
So
you are 100% correct, Deidre. She was saying that the Heritage
yeah,
Foundation has a report proving that they don't.
it's ridiculous. Yeah, it's crazy.
And
It's
Jenna
crazy. But
Jenna from Missouri says only two incidents of voter fraud in Missouri in 2022, and both were STC voters voting in
that's St.
Florida.
Charles County.
Okay, voting
Yeah.
in Florida. Guess the party.
Yeah.
So yes, we will
Wow.
know that the level of fraud in our big test. I try not to say that word too much
Yeah.
because TikTok don't like it. Um, the level of fraud happening in it isn't at a level that we need to take this sort of measure.
No.
However,
No.
um, however, what are your specific steps that you would support to expand voter access in Missouri, like early
Well,
voting, mail-in ballots, things like that.
so we have already have a great early voting process here in Missouri that actually increased voter registration this year. In our municipal elections, we had a record turnout, and that was because of the bump from the early voting. Normally we see about, which is a sad number, but normally we see about 15 to 20, somewhere in that range on the lower end. But this year in our municipal elections, we had a 22% turnout because we had a big tax measure on there. But
Mm-hmm.
uh, we had already eclipsed the regular municipal record by the time the polls had closed. And so when they went in and added the absentee ballots in there, the early voting, it took it way over the top. So I would find ways to give more access to early voting,
Mm-hmm.
because that was way different than 2 years ago in our county. When it came to early voting, we had lines like people was looking for the Popeyes chicken sandwiches at the polls. I mean, it was just that bad. It was so many people there, and the lines were so long. You had maybe an hour wait or more just to go in and cast a vote early.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I feel like things like that are barriers to democracy because somebody will be in that line and have something to do. I got to go to work. I thought I was just going to stop by before work, cast my vote real quick and go. So I would like to increase access by more locations. Maybe we find a way to increase the number of election judges who are on site so that way more people can get to, just find a way to increase that early voting access. Uh, Absolutely mail-in ballots and things of that. Anything that makes voting easy and accessible for more Americans, I'm all for.
Absolutely. Um, let's see, Miss Deidre wanted to know: have they dumped voters from the rolls, or is Missouri safe from that?
So, because I'm the chairman, because in my free time, I'm the chairman of the county Democratic Party. I have a fairly decent relationship with the head of our election authority, and I do know that we do dump voters from the roll, but it's only for extreme inactivity. Like this person has to sit out a couple election cycles
Mm-hmm.
before they're just dumped without being, deceased or anything like that.
Right.
But he's just not going in and just, purging the rolls at random. Like it has to be extreme inactivity before someone is taken off the voter rolls.
Okay. All right. And so that what I often say, the one thing I will credit this administration with is
Mm-hmm.
opening the eyes of Americans on
Ooh,
voting.
ooh,
Okay, I have never, and I'm up there with you. And in my 49 years of life, seen this much activity around politics.
yeah.
It's really encouraging. And because of that, we more like I think I had to be in my late 30s before I realized there was a thing called early voting. Like I just
Mm-hmm.
thought you went voting on
Election
In
day.
November,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah,
or that those things like the mail-ins and the early votings was for like
yeah.
special reasons. Like it
Uh
wasn't
huh.
for everyone. And then I found out, oh no, everybody can go early vote. And
Yeah. Well,
um
that varies by state, but most states do have some sort of early voting process in place now, and that really became a thing around the pandemic. A
mhm.
couple years before, and those years after was when other places started locking it in. Um, it varies from state to state. That's all I wanted to say. So check the rules in your state because I don't want you going in demanding that you vote early and they send you out of there.
Right. We don't have no early voting. What you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but no, it is sad. To hold on, let me see their name. Yeah, that's Jenna saying that. What up, Jenna? It's my homegirl. But it is sad that it took all of this for us to get to this place where people will actually start taking this thing seriously. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy. You can go back to 2016 with uh, Hillary. She warned us what this guy was going to do when he got in office, and he did just that, right?
Mhm.
And we thought we learned our lesson, and so we dealt with Joe Biden. because we weren't going back to Trump again,
Right.
right? So,
Right.
so we were stuck with Uncle Joe, right? Um, and then after he saw Kamala tried to say, hey, he's going to do this, and everything she mentioned on the debate stage has come true,
Yep.
but we wouldn't support her because of his laugh, right? And I
Right.
think that people realizing that they weren't really paying attention to what was going on. They were just caught up in the propaganda and the hype and all of those things. But now we're at a point to where every week we're getting a headline about some of the terrible things that this person is doing to our
Mm-hmm.
country, and it's so sad. And it's even sadder that some people try to defend it and say these are the right things to do.
Correct.
Um, it's terrible. But again, like you said, he's woken us up, right? He
Yep.
brought out his silent majority, and that's how he won in 2016. And now the pendulum is swinging back the other way.
Yep.
And I feel it every day on the ground.
Absolutely. I just we still have work to do, Donna. We still have work to do because I ask people all the time, who you voting for in the midterm? And they're like, I'm voting
Mhm.
blue. I'm voting red. No, who? Who are
Who?
you voting for? They don't.
Yes.
They just know they're gonna vote blue. They just know they're gonna vote red or whatever. But they have no
Yes.
idea who's running.
Because all skin folk ain't kin folk. Come on now.
So we're
You,
gonna do
you said,
our we're
yeah,
gonna do
like you gotta vet these people. You gotta make sure, right? And again, that's why my campaign, calling my campaign the people's campaign, because what affects the people is what affects them at the dinner table. You
exactly.
know, what we gain as union members when we negotiate those benefits, as legislators when we write those, I mean, that stuff can go away just that quick. All they got to do is pass another bill and they can take it away from us as soon as they get the numbers on their side, right? If they put whatever it is that they want. And listen, I'm not an advocate for the country being all one side or the other. I think we need the balance. I think we need the inclusion. I think we need the diversity. We need all of that, right? Because um, if I live in Winchell, I'm 30 minutes outside of St. Louis, right?
Hmm.
But right now, if you're in North St. Louis City, it looks like you live in a war zone because they
Right.
still haven't repaired the damage from the tornado over a year ago,
Oh wow.
right? And we just don't have people in office who will say, cut the check,
Mm-hmm.
you know? Yes, I did see that. I'm sorry, somebody's asking about the new maps in Virginia, right? And this goes back to
Mm-hmm.
the people that we elect because we had this in Missouri also. But in Virginia, their redistricting went to a public vote.
Yeah.
The people voted and passed it,
Yeah.
right? And now
And that should be
uh,
it.
the
That should
pachyderms
be
are saying,
it.
no, no, the pachyderms are saying, hi, that's cute, Mr. Secretary of State, that you even put that out there for people to vote on it. But the deal's already done. So we just going to rewrite something new and put that away, right? But and if it passed overwhelmingly in the state, this is what the people want. But these fools so arrogant, right? They just so full of themselves. They so drunk with power. They so comfortable and complacent because people haven't been paying attention. That they're not reading the tea leaves. They're not watching the writing on the wall, right? We finally woken them up. Like, hey, I understand you may have those values, right? You may have that one issue that you just can't back off of. But while you're standing on that issue, right, you're going to starve. While you're standing on that issue, you're going to lose your house.
Yep.
While they're standing on that issue, they're going to lock your babies up. You know what I
And that's
mean? That's
it's
exactly what they're going to do. And you still over here talking about, you know, what a woman should do with her body, what a
yep.
man should do with his body, what sport a kid want to play, so on and so. The kid ain't going to play no sport if you can't feed him.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like, come on, let's be for real here. Like, let's bring it down to what really matters. They're gonna tax us to death. They're gonna gerrymander us to death. And next, they're gonna put up these data centers. And I know people are back and forth on them, but there's evidence that these things are polluting and damaging and ruining our communities because
Mm-hmm.
that's where they're putting them at. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
They're tainting the water and everything else. Like, we got to pay attention to who these people are because they know you're not paying attention. They know you think your vote doesn't count. They know you think your vote doesn't matter. And so
Yep.
with their arrogance, they just gonna play to their corporate interests. They're gonna play to the big packs and the big money, right? They're gonna do whatever those people want, and they're gonna run right over you in the process. And they're not gonna care. They're not
Absolutely.
gonna care.
And
I'm sorry, I was rambling there. I
no, that's
apologize.
okay.
You struck a nerve there. You struck a
I
nerve.
know. And but that's what they don't realize that this is going to probably backfire on them, because if I took my time to come out and vote on yesterday, only
Hmm.
for you to basically tell me my vote doesn't matter, we going to make
Yes.
the laws anyway, that is going to backfire on every single one who is fighting back against the vote. So
Yeah.
let's
Yeah.
go
It's
into
crazy.
our first rapid fire. And
I'm
this
ready.
one is more political questions. The next one is going to be a little more fun,
Okay.
and more geared towards Missouri. So
Okay.
term limits, yes or no?
Ooh. Ooh. I'm gonna say Senate, yes. Oh wait, Congress, yes. Senate, no.
So House, yes; Senate, no.
Yes.
You think they should not have term limits? Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Um,
Yes.
are you compromising or standing firm on most issues?
What do you mean by compromise?
Um, that you went in there saying, I will not vote for um the Ten Commandments in school. However,
Mm.
however, they offered $5 million for your district for education if the Ten Commandments can go into the schools. Are you compromising or are you standing firm?
So here's what I'm gonna say to that. I'm a union man, right? And so in my mind, everything is negotiable. All right. And I will tell you this, that if I'm at, let's use the Ten Commandments as an example, right? And I'm a born again believer. But if
Mm-hmm.
we're going to put the Ten Commandments in school, then we should respect everyone else's faith and put a representation of that in school, right? So that's where the compromise would go for me. They can't pay me to switch. Like I can't be bought, right? Because I earn a living wage. You know what I'm saying? I work really hard, and if I put in some overtime, like I can get my own money. I can just go back over there and do that, right? But I'm here for the benefit of the greater good. I'm not gonna sell the people out on that. So no, I wouldn't sell out, right? But
Okay.
the compromise would be if one of them go in, then all of them go in.
All of them
And if
go.
you're not ready to put them all in, then you keep them all out.
Okay. Um,
Okay.
lower or raise taxes?
What kinds of taxes?
When I wrote this down, I said that's gonna be tricky. I mean, 'cause
listen,
sometimes
listen.
you
There's a
have to
reason
raise it.
why. Yeah, well, sometimes it's. I mean, it's tough, right? I don't think sales tax should be raised,
Okay.
right? I think citizens are raised enough. Okay, I think taxes should be reasonable, but I also think that we have to hold our elected officials accountable on these budgets and how they're using our tax dollars. You know, and that's from the House of Representatives that would write the budget to the Senate that would approve the budget to the governor that vetoes the budget. You know what I'm saying? Like we got to hold people accountable for what they're doing here. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Now, also with that, oh, see, they took the words right out of my mouth. Raise the billionaires' taxes, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
everybody should pay a fair share. Okay, everybody should pay a fair share. I would love to see what, and this is just an idea, okay? This is not policy I'm trying to legislate, right? But I just think how awesome it would be if everybody had a flat tax rate, right? And because 15% of my, hold on, let me count. Yeah, so 15% of my 5-digit salary,
Okay.
right, don't look a lot different than 15% of Elon Musk's salary, right?
Exactly.
But we all need to pay a part. You know what I'm saying? So, I would be interested in just a flat rate. But definitely think we need to tax the wealthy. They need to pay their fair share because right now they're paying nothing. And I
Absolutely.
and I know they get my 15% every year, and I very rarely get a refund anymore
Okay.
because all my kids is out the house.
All right.
you know,
Now
so
we're gonna try to rapid fire this thing.
okay,
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I'm being wordy. Okay, I'm sorry. Quick.
Uh, fix first, roads or public transit?
Ooh, roads.
Roads. Okay. Rent control, is it helpful or restrictive?
Oh, see, that's another one. That one. That's one that varies because it really depends on where you are and what the property values are there, right? Because that's going to determine where the rent goes. Oh, what was the first one? I know the second one was restrictive.
Is it helpful or restrictive?
I would say helpful. I'm gonna say helpful.
Okay. What is the biggest issue facing your community right now?
The biggest issue facing my community right now,
Hmm.
affordability.
Okay. Um, First bill or policy you would prioritize once in office?
Uh, paid maternal leave for teachers.
Oh, wait, that's not a thing already?
Not in Missouri.
What? Come on, Missouri.
Well, they get short-term disability, which is a federal program, right? But I feel like our school districts around here should be able to compensate our teachers when they go to start families.
I 100% agree. One change you'll make to how elections are run.
Oh, expand access.
Okay,
More polling places is what I mean by that.
got you. One word to describe your leadership style.
Diplomatic.
Oh, that's a good word. That's a good word. All right. Again, I will remind everyone, if you have any questions for Mr. Looney, please put them in the chat, or you can hit the multi guest request and come up and ask yourself. I always like that better. Sometimes the questions get misconstrued in the chat, so you can really, say what you need to say by
Hmm.
coming up. We are going to go into our next topic, which he kind of already just poked at a little bit: education.
Hmm.
Now, Missouri schools often face funding disparities. What specific changes would you support to ensure fair and adequate funding for public schools in District 63?
We gotta fix the formula and then fund it fully. Um, Missouri does have a funding formula in place, but it's a very antiquated formula, and we have a current legislature that hasn't fully funded it in at least a decade. So our schools are running off of local money. You know, whether it's personal property taxes in the city or within their school district. That's how our schools are. That's the majority of our school budget is coming from right now because the funding at the state level ain't there. The federal funding is there, local funding is there, state funding is suffering in Missouri.
Okay. So how we gonna get that? We gonna make sure that.
We got to fix the formula. We just got to
Okay.
we got to fix the formula. I don't know the details of it, so I won't talk all nerdy about it. But we can see it's not working, right? So we need to go in and figure out what's not working, and make sure that we expand that or change that, right? And then when they're writing the budget or approving the budget in the House of Representatives, we need to make sure that they're not chopping education out of it because a lot of times that's what happens. We can't get a legislature that will agree to fully fund education. We can get a legislature that will put things in the budget to compensate for things in the formula that are lacking,
Mm-hmm.
but we have a governor that will chop that down. You know, he will veto that bill, or he will line item veto that part of the budget. Just that easy, and that's the authority that the governor has.
Absolutely. Um. Okay. So teacher shortages continue to impact classrooms.
Hmm.
What policies would you campaign to improve teacher pay, retention, and recruitment across the state?
Well, I think teachers should earn a prevailing wage. Okay. And in the union world, that's essentially saying that when an electrician walks up to your breaker box, he already knows how much an hour his time is worth
Mm-hmm.
when he walks in there, and he can bid that job out according to that hourly rate, right? I think that there needs to be a similar scale in place for teachers that would include and account for their experience, their tenure, their qualifications, all of those things. But so they not only need a living wage and a pay increase, right? But that needs to be adjustable with the times based on all of those factors.
Okay. But so with the pay increase, you think that that would keep teachers there and help the recruiting?
I think that here's the thing about teachers, right? And I'm gonna tell you why I love them. Uh, I don't think that anyone, I shouldn't say anyone. It'd be hard for me to accept that the majority of educators don't have just a genuine love and compassion for children, right? Now I know we got bad ones, right? Because we all got teachers that we hated growing up. If I ask people to throw them in the chat right now, they'll probably start naming those teachers that they hate because you never forget them, right? But truly believe that the majority of people who go into education don't wake up and say, "I'm gonna be rich by teaching."
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like they don't do this. They don't commit their lives. They don't go to school and get degrees and then get a master's degree and then become a scholar and do all of these things because they think they're going to get rich that way. They have a love for educating. They have a love for being around children, right? And I think that's worthy. I think that's precious because whether we want to admit it or not, our children are our most precious asset,
Yep.
right? Like there's nothing that we have more. I mean, I'm gonna go Whitney Houston. I believe the children are our future, right? And we got to protect that. And the people who want to nurture that and guide that um, should
We
be
should be.
compensated for
We
that
should be.
task,
Yes.
right? And that's not
Absolutely.
just the teachers. That's down the support staff, the bus drivers. I mean, imagine driving that big old yellow, submarine down the street with everybody else kids on there yelling and acting a fool and you can't discipline them, you can't say too much, no, you need a pay raise. Whoever you are driving that bus, you need to be adequately compensated for that time, right? Love kids, but we all know how kids are, especially when they all together like that. Come on.
Absolutely.
They
Absolutely.
yeah, they need to be compensated and taken care of. So a prevailing wage for anybody involved in education is something that I would absolutely support.
Okay. And how will we make that happen? It either is through a state budget, or we
Mhm.
have to raise the taxes again to make sure that we can afford to pay these teachers more.
Our federal government spends a lot of money on a lot of things, a lot of places around the world. So the money is there, right? And it can come from our federal government.
Okay.
I mean, if we're going to go into trillions of dollars of national debt for the things that we go into trillions of dollars of national debt, I think we really need to examine our priorities as a society.
Agreed.
I really think we do. Because I think I mean, a lot of those activities that are going on, a lot of the wars that are being fought, right? A lot of the humanitarian aid that we're sending out could stay home. And I'm not saying let's not help other people, right? But we got to fix home first.
Hmm.
We got to take care of home first. As a man, when I think about my family, I have to make sure that I'm okay, right? I can't take certain risks. I can't hang out with the boys the way I used to back in the day because I got to make sure I'm home so I can take care of my family,
Hmm.
right? And our country should look at that the same way. Like we got to make sure we're good so we can take care of our citizens, right? We shouldn't take my money or your money and, send it all around the world. Let's make sure we're good at home first. And then we can take care of all those other things. So
Absolutely.
that's how I would pay for that. I would pay for that. I would pay for health care. I would pay for universal pre-K, all of those things if we stop wasting money on war and other frivolous things.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of the federal, I
Hmm.
often have a little debate with people about this question I'm about to pose to you, and I'll give you my opinion about it once I ask the question. There's ongoing debate about curriculum standards and local control.
Mm.
Where do you believe the balance should lie between state oversight and decisions made by local school districts? Now,
Hmm.
my opinion is I 100% believe that at the federal level, the Department of Education should stay fully intact.
Hmm.
However, they will then take on the role of creating a nationwide curriculum.
Mm.
Meaning that everyone will be learning the same thing at the same time. I don't care if you're in Missouri, in Maryland, in California. You're whatever the third graders are learning, they're learning everywhere at the same time. Now, where the state will come in is enforcing these standards. Um,
Okay.
Also making a state curriculum for um, things like their social studies classes like that, because there are some things you need to learn about the state in particular. So that's where the state curriculum will go into place. But I believe personally, for the most part, that there should be a national standard, a national curriculum that can be gathered across the nation. So again,
Wow.
where do you fall on this?
Wow. I'm not opposed to that, but what makes me uncomfortable about that is if we had a national standard for curriculum, I think we would leave ourselves open to propaganda,
Mm,
and I think we would leave ourselves open to um, um, how can I say revisionist versions of history
okay.
when we deal with the federal curriculum. Now, I think there should be benchmarks, right? There are certain things that children need to know at certain ages, but I don't know if we want to go as deep as saying this is what must be learned at that point in time. So, yeah, that
I mean, in
I don't
my
I
in
don't
my
know.
scenario, it's going to be run by teachers, accredited teachers, who would come up
Yeah,
with this
but
curriculum.
yeah, but I don't know where that lady from. I don't know where that man from, and I don't know if they understand what we got going on here in Wentzville. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And
So,
so
so do you
I,
think that the state should run the curriculums of the schools or the districts?
I think that I think that we should start looking at school boards more like we look at a judiciary, right? Or like a court that has multiple judges on the bench, right? Right. Like at a federal level, we should look at it like a Supreme Court, right? Um, because what's working in the Wentzville school district may not work in one of our neighboring districts, right?
Mm-hmm.
But only the people who reside in that district really understand what's happening there. You know, where I live, we may need more diversity teaching than they need in another district. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Um, Depending on what our capacity and capabilities are, we may be able to do some things that other districts can't. So when you start placing federal mandates in, it's possibility that there could be undue stress put on a district that may not have the revenue or income that another district may have, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm all for uh, local control at a municipal level, but I think that when things get out of whack, there should be some way that we can look to the state to correct some things, right? Or if we're not satisfied with our answer there, then we could appeal to someone at the federal level. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like in the judiciary, right? If there's an
Mm-hmm.
offense made, we take it before the right people. And if we don't like their answer, guess what? We're going to appeal over there and we're going to appeal over there and we're going to appeal over there. I think that's when it would be appropriate for a state level or federal level school board or education watchers to get involved. But I have full faith in our teachers. So if it's ran by teachers, that's great, right? I just think that it needs to be a little bit closer to home so people can, the folks who are in that community, in that area, that town, or whatever you want to call it, can make those decisions for their children.
Okay. Now Miss Blessings had a question, and I'm trying to see if I can get this right. What is your feelings on lawmakers? What are you typing? It's
I'm so
typing.
sorry. I'm
It's
sorry, I
okay.
was fidgeting.
What is your feelings about lawmakers at in wording to remove elected officials from office when they speak out against the governor? Okay, wait a minute. What is your feelings about lawmakers? Okay, blessings. Okay, adding wording to remove
Oh,
elected officials from office when they speak out against the governor.
No,
No.
no, I just no. I don't think that's okay. Um, I don't think that's okay at all. Uh, First of all, it's really hard to remove an elected official from office, and I don't know how many of them would write laws like that because uh, you never know when you could turn that around on them. We
Yeah,
never know when you can say something because people can make it sound like, especially in this informational AI propaganda age, they could make it seem like you said anything about anybody or
right.
against anybody. And if in America where we're supposed to have freedom of speech, we can't do that, right? Like if I don't like something, I got to be able to say it. So I think that would be a harsh violation of our First Amendment rights.
Absolutely. Now, Miss Siaka was pushing back hard in these comments on you. She basically saying that what you're saying could happen at the federal level, can also happen at the local level, or the state level, with the state teaching only what they want you to learn, instead of, like I said, we would it would definitely be some oversight in what I'm talking about. We're not just
Mm-hmm.
putting any, and in a lot of our things we have at the federal level, people are bipartisan, and that would also be the criteria for being on the school board, the national school board. Okay, that you would have to be bipartisan. We just learning the facts about the facts.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but she was saying that she was pushing back really hard that
Well, see,
yeah.
but see, that's where you as a constituent or resident come into play, right? I'm gonna use myself as an example here for this because this is really good. And I'm gonna tell you this will get why I'm so heavy on education. So in 2021, I ran for school board twice here in Wentzville where I live. Okay. Now the first time I had no idea what I was getting into.
Mhm.
Okay, I jumped into the race, and this is after a few years, working, doing the political things with the UAW and doing all of that stuff as I was right. And so it's right after on the tail end of Ferguson, the Ferguson uprising and COVID and all of that, right? My response to that was, okay, I've marched and marched and marched. I've protested and protested and protested. I've been outside. I've been outside. I've been outside. What am I gonna do now?
Right.
I need to get in here so I can make some decisions, right? So I run for school board um, twice because I lost the first time because I wasn't prepared for the fight. Okay. The second time, I got my ducks in order, got my ducks in a row. And as soon as um, I filed 2 weeks before January 6th. Okay.
Mhm.
And on January 7th, I took to Facebook and said that all of those people deserve to be tried for treason
Right.
because you cannot attack the White House. And from that moment on, I became the poster child for DEI, CRT, 1619 Project,
Because
diversity, equity, inclusion. Yes,
because you said these
yeah,
unpatriotic people should be punished.
yes,
Okay.
yes, yes, yes. Okay. And so when people see me, but it was already too late at that point. I had already filed. I filed to run for the office. Okay, the word was out, and I went on Facebook thinking it was just Tuesday or Wednesday, whatever day it was. Right? Wrong. Okay, because now I got all of the conservative attention. Right, and they just started attacking me. Now let me tell you about where I live in Wentzville. My community is about 4% African American, and I might be being generous when I say that number.
Well, let me double check
Okay.
it. Okay.
Okay. So I don't know if that's the county number, 4% in there somewhere. 4% is what I want to say it is. Could be less.
I
And that might be
my
all
my
minorities.
numbers say 7.
Okay, your number say 7. Okay, I thought
Mhm.
7 was the state of Missouri. Okay. So I mean, but that's like what, one in every
And it says it's 85%
nine,
white.
8 or 9.
It's
Yeah.
85% white.
So there,
So,
right, and so where I tell I'm at the and I know your platform is not bipartisan, so I'm not trying
mhm.
to hate on none of y'all out there, but we are the red tip of the spear here. Like the culture wars kicked off. The culture wars about that school board stuff kicked off here in Wentzville.
Mm,
Okay, when they shut down schools, Folks had their opinions, and these women, I can probably see the spot where they were from right here. Can see it from my house. Anyway, but they stood out in the street with signs saying, send their kids back to school. Don't shut the schools down. Right. Well, I stood on the other side of that. Well, until we figure out what's going on, no, we definitely need to keep our kids at home. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like we don't want the kids to get sick. All right. Um, but so there was a progression of things. But after that January 6th thing, oh yeah, I became the poster child for that. So they drugged me through the mud. I mean, think of all of the racial tropes that you heard on a national level, and just know that it was worse on a local level because they think can't nobody see them.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like it was bad. So I went through all of that and dealt with that, but I didn't give up because what matters to me matters, right? I started working with people like Jenna, who's in the comments. I started working with other people. We started building coalition, building groups, building power. We started going to school board meetings and talking about the things that we didn't like. We took to social media and kept organizing and bringing more people out to school board meetings to talk about the things that we didn't like. So, in fact, that I was telling folks back then, we may not have the money that these special interests have, right? We don't have the money, but we can definitely outwork them, right? I work for a living, so I know that I can outwork, Mr. Entitled Privileged over there. You know what I'm saying? Because he probably ain't
Mm-hmm.
had did a day of hard work in his life, and that's not shaming anybody. All work is labor, but I'm an auto worker. I know I can get down, right? I'm gonna outwork him, and if y'all work with me, we can all outwork him, and we can outwork them. In Wentzville, they didn't even bother showing up. Okay. We had three candidates who walked right in the office because the opposition, all the book banning, anti DEI, anti trans folks, didn't even bother showing up because we worn them down with a
Wow.
grassroots effort. We just knew. All right. And so all of that started. The reason why I mentioned my race is not to pat myself on the back, but to say that's where it started.
Mm-hmm.
Because until they had a black face to target with all of those things,
Mm.
it was not effective.
Right.
You understand what I'm saying? The message didn't carry. Like you can't say DEI and when there's not a black man over there, because other I'd be like, what are you even talking about? You know what I'm saying?
Exactly
Like,
right.
what are you even talking about?
What is
Because
the
that's not even,
DEI? No DEI here.
you know. But when they come to me and they ask me about the 1619 project, and I say, oh, it's a really good book, Blase Skippy. I didn't even realize that I was playing into the trap. You see
Right.
what I'm saying? I didn't even
Wow.
realize I was playing into the trap. So, um, yeah, that's just where we are. So to answer your question, the community has to stay involved and the community has to stay engaged. Y'all got to stop. You got to cut me off when I get wordy like that,
I
okay?
will.
Because I really want to get back
But
to the
I'm
question.
listening. But I'm listening.
Community has to stay involved, right? You with your vote is what holds legislators accountable, okay? Your communications to them. Look, it's legal for you to email them. It's legal for you to call them. And guess what? In some places, it might even be illegal for them to block you on social media.
Mm.
So your communication with them is what is going to make sure that they know that people are out there holding them accountable. And then it comes down to, are you going to listen to your corporate donors or are you going to listen to the people who elected you to office? Right. And what I always promise people is that those folks can't buy me. Like they've tried, y'all. They tried. Like I'm not a working man for a living. No, I have a sense of pride and dignity. You can't pay me off. You can't buy me. I'm not to be sold. I'm just
Absolutely.
not. So that's where we are. I'm sorry. Let me stop. 'Cause I feel like I'm rambling.
It's okay. So we're gonna go into our second rapid fire real quick, just to switch it up a
Okay.
little bit.
Rapid fire.
Okay.
Rapid fire.
Rapid fire. Should be easy to rapid fire.
Okay.
This should not take a whole lot of brain power. I give leeway on the political one because it is it's not just black and white. But this should be black and white, sir. Okay. All
Okay.
right. Are you
Oh, that
hiking
sun
or
is rising
biking?
up. Biking.
Okay. Ice cream or sherbet?
Ice cream.
What's better,
Hold on.
homemade?
Can we go back to the last one?
Uh
Can
huh.
we go back to the last one? Uh, for St. Louis, I'm gonna say frozen custard.
Frozen
All right,
custard.
there we go.
Okay.
All right, there we go.
Which
Go
is
ahead.
better than ice cream.
Yes.
Okay. What's better, homemade? Pizza, tacos, or burgers?
Ooh, I made my first homemade pizza about a year ago, and so I have to say pizza is better than all of that homemade.
Okay. Cats or dogs?
Dogs,
Okay. Would you rather grant wishes or receive wishes?
grant wishes.
Okay.
No, yes, grant wishes. I'm gonna
Okay.
say grant wishes. See, you tried to trick me there. That was a trick one.
Grant wishes.
Grant
Okay.
wishes.
IMO or Cecil Whitaker's?
Oh, emos. I'm emos all
Emos. That's
day.
what it's called.
Yeah,
Emos.
emos. Yes, emos pizza. Come
Okay.
to St. Louis, get you a slice.
A day in Forest Park or at Castlewood State Park?
Forest Park.
Okay. St. Louis Cardinals or St. Louis City? That answers the question. Those are the
That's a
Cardinals.
Cardinals
I
hat.
believe so.
Yes.
Um, now, St. Louis style ribs or a pork steak?
Ooh. Is it pork steak St. Louis style too?
I guess.
Yeah, I gotta say pork. I gotta have a pork steak. I can't leave them alone. I love a
Okay.
good rib, but I'm gonna take a pork steak.
I don't know what a pork steak is.
Oh, you gotta come on to St. Louis, get your pork steak.
Nookie. He's one of he's one of our members of OVC from St. Louis. So
Okay, okay.
he
Yeah, we
got to
gotta
he
get
got
you.
to bring
Yeah, we
send
gotta
me a
get you some
pork
pork
steak.
steak.
Okay, because
Yeah,
I like both of those things, steak and
yeah.
pork.
See, that's
So
that's Midwestern. Those are Midwestern delicacies there. You know what I mean?
I
That's
do
it's yeah.
I
You
don't
gotta
know
get
what
your pork steak.
now I know a country style rib, but what's a St. Louis style rib? If they like country style,
Yeah,
like
but
the fat.
they're very saucy.
Oh, oh,
Like
no,
St. Louis
no, I don't
barbecue
like
is
sauce.
is St. Louis barbecue is a is unique, and I don't want to. People get very sensitive about it, and I might cost myself the election if I start talking too much about it. Okay, but people are very sensitive. But I will say it's like an amalgamation of all of the great barbecues places around St. Louis. Okay, so some people might do it with a little Memphis style or a little Texas style, a little
Mm,
Kansas City style. Like St. Louis is like a bit of all of that. Okay, but the difference here is we really like some sauce. Now, some folks who won't have it sauce, but in St. Louis, we really like some
I like
sauce.
some sauce. Last question: what's your favorite Missouri landmark?
The arch,
Of course.
the arch.
Is that really your favorite?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's the arch, hands down. Reason why? Okay, and every time I get this question, it gives me an opportunity to plug this. But the arch, the land the arch sits on, is actually was much like Central Park in New York, flourishing black community
Mm,
that was leveled so they could build that monument.
mm.
Yeah, so I I I I love it because it reminds me how much we have to fight for, right? How insignificant they think that our lives are. That they can just pave paradise and put up a parking lot, if you will. You know what
Well,
I
I
mean?
mean, well, speaking of that, what do you think about this administration wanting to put their own arch up here in DC?
I don't think much of this administration. I can't wait for us to get them out of here. That's what I'm
I
gonna say to
know,
that.
I know.
Yes, toasted raviolis. I see somebody, and I'm sorry,
Yes.
they distracted me with the toasted ravioli talk. Yes, toasted raviolis.
Now
Oh,
look, I was actually because I did ask my fellow Missourian for these questions, and his last question was toasted ravioli or thin crust pizza. But
toasted ravioli.
I had already had so much pizza questions going on. I didn't want to ask
No,
that,
no,
but
no, no,
I
no,
guess
no,
toasted
no.
raviolis is a thing. Okay.
Yes, you ain't had a toasted ravioli?
No, so I now have to come have St.
Oh
Louis
my
style pizza,
God.
St. Louis style pork steak, and with toasted raviolis,
Yeah.
eaten under the arch.
Under the arch. Yes. Oh my God. Who was that talking about toasted red? Joni Fights for Liberty. What up,
Yeah,
Joni Fights for Liberty? You missed toasted raviolis. Man,
yeah.
y'all gonna make me go get
She's
some
in
as soon as I get
Texas
out here.
now. She's in Texas now, but she's
Oh,
from Missouri.
That's the worst. I hate the answer to that question. If I'm on vacation or I'm traveling and we're out somewhere else outside of St. Louis, I'm like, y'all got toasted ravioli? No.
Yeah, don't come here asking for that. We don't know what that
Oh
is.
man, that's an appetizer. So to give you the short version, right? And it's probably underselling it, right? But it would be like a deep fried ravioli. Okay.
Okay.
Only you bread and batter it and you bake it.
I do love ravioli.
Yeah.
I may have to try
Yeah. You bread and batter it and bake it, and it's like an appetizer. Probably the greatest appetizer on earth.
that. Okay. Well, let's get back to a few more policies before with our last 15 minutes.
Okay.
Okay, we're gonna just dip into healthcare, and then we're gonna talk about the economy. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so um, considering Missouri's strict AB laws, and we say AB for the stoppage of a pregnancy, because we can't say that word on TikTok. Um, considering Missouri's strict AB laws after the overturning of Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization, what is your position on exceptions, the typical exceptions, the
Mm-hmm.
violation of a woman, incest, and medical emergencies? How would you ensure doctors can provide care without fear of legal consequences?
So, shout out to I can't say the word AAM and all of their allies and volunteers and colleagues and all of those people, because last election cycle Missourians were successful in passing an amendment that gave access to that.
Mm-hmm.
After Dobbs fell and the trigger ban went into play, Missourians mobilized, and that ballot measure, because we have this thing here called the initiative petition process, right? So in Missouri, if people feel strongly enough about an issue, they can submit a petition and that goes to the ballot for people to vote on it. Okay. That's how we push back right to work in Missouri. That's how we push back. That's how we got recreational marijuana to
Mm-hmm.
legalize marijuana.
Broccoli.
Uh, yeah. Oh, so sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm new to this TikTok live
I
thing. Okay,
know.
y'all. I'm gonna get y'all. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Um, but yeah, that's how we did all of those things, right? Through our initiative petition process. Last year, not only did we pass Amendment 3, which protected that access and flipped what they reversed with the trigger ban. But what it also did, what the other ballot measure we had gave was called Healthy Families and Fair Wages, and it increased the minimum wage in Missouri, and it gave paid earned sick time to all workers, no matter where you worked at. If you worked X amount of hours, you got X amount of sick time, or Y amount of sick time. But our legislature went in and they did much like they did in Virginia and tried to overturn that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the way they did it, it has to go back to the ballot. So we're going to be voting on these things again this year in November, possibly. So that's where we are. That being said, um, my position is that anybody who wants one should be able to get one when they need one. And whether or not they did or didn't is really none of my business. So I'm going to make sure that the law makes sure that I can stay and those people like me can stay out of that
Out of
business.
their business. Now, how what give me some policies or ideas that you're going to put forth to make healthcare more affordable, to expand access, to improve Medicaid expansions. What are some of your ideas you plan on taking to the house, to the state house?
So um, essentially, I want to get to the state house so we can make sure that we fund all of the things, because through that same initiative petition process, which is under attack right now, by the way. So y'all check out Amendment 4 and vote no. But um, we passed Medicaid expansion. Okay. Um, and the legislature has just failed to fund it.
Hmm.
They exit out of the budget one way or another every time. Um, so we need to get legislators there who can actually fix the problems that we have here in Missouri. God, I feel like I said this so much instead of arguing over if that problem exists.
Exactly. Exactly.
Wow, I'm one of those people now who says the same thing over and over again. I never thought I'd be there, but really, that's what we need. I've had to answer that question so many times.
Right.
Medicaid and healthcare is one of those things that we just need to stop arguing over, and we just need to pass the laws and write the budgets that will fund it in the way that it needs to be funded.
And make sure they
To
implement
that,
it.
yes, to that, um, I would like to see spending caps on, or I'm sorry, pricing caps on medications in Missouri.
Hmm.
Um, I that's another thing that we got to get figured out. Like, if they don't get us at the doctor's office, they're getting us, at the drug
At the
counter, at
counter.
drugstore. Yeah,
Hmm.
at the counter. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's can't say that word either. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. But they getting us,
At the counter.
yes, at the counter, right? They're gonna get us one way or another. And then here, they're going so crazy with trying to eliminate so many different taxes that fund public services, that they're talking about raising sales taxes to compensate that. So your medications and all of that stuff is going to get hit by that as well.
Hmm.
It's terrible. Okay, thank you, Joni. Yes, your prescriptions gonna be affected by that as well.
Yep.
It's so that's the type of legislation that I want to pass, right? If I can't get people on board to just say universal health care for all, Medicare for all, whatever it is. We're going to take care of people who are sick, regardless of how they got sick, right? Maybe we can piecemeal this thing and start attacking certain policies and statutes that make it difficult for people to live healthy lives. Because again, this goes back to workers' rights, right? I work every day, right?
Yep.
And if I can't work, then I can't live, because that's this hamster wheel that they've got us on, where we're all working for the weekend, right? The wheels of capitalism are running, and I gotta go. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? I'm sorry,
Yep.
I didn't. Okay, but they're going. I gotta go. You know what I mean? And I can't do that if I'm sick. So if my bosses ain't gonna make sure that I can stay healthy, then the government has to make sure that I stay healthy, because my government should be looking after my bosses anyway and making sure they're not taking advantage of me, right?
Exactly.
But since I can't count on the government to do that, then I need a union. You all need a union, okay? So we got to protect your right to organize.
Well, with that being said, now let me first just put in there. You were talking about they don't get us at the hospital; they're getting us at the counter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, AOC put together a diagram which showed how Aetna
Mm-hmm.
is had its hands in all factors of healthcare.
Mm-hmm.
Not
Mm-hmm.
you got to get the insurance from them. They have their own clinics.
Mm-hmm.
They
Mm-hmm.
then are part of the prescription drug plan thing, and then it comes back to you then have to get approved to go to the doctors. Like they have their hand in the whole factor of all of it, and so they're pulling in money from everywhere. And they get to say, "Oh no, we want to approve it, or we can't approve it, or you're gonna have to pay this much." And at the end of the day, we're the ones getting messed over.
Absolutely.
It's crazy.
Absolutely. And that's the other thing. Like, at the federal level, our government used to protect us from that through things like antitrust, right?
Hmm.
Through Because essentially right now, under this current administration, it's like a big monopoly game, right? Only we don't get to roll the dice. You know what I'm saying? We don't get to roll the dice. We just the pawns on the board. I may be the shoe or the car right now. You know, um,
I'm the car. I'm always the car. Okay.
okay, but they are in charge of this game that they got us playing, and we're holding up this table, right? Wouldn't it be a beautiful thing if we could get all the workers on the same page at the same day and agree just to not comply, right? What if we all
Yeah.
just woke up one day and said we are not going to comply with this? Okay,
Yeah.
so y'all can stop, right? What would happen then? I think people will really understand that the power of the people is greater than the people in power. Huey Newton.
Absolutely. Hold on, I'm trying to find my background. Well, I'm trying to find that background. Um, the economy.
Hmm.
Small businesses are the backbone of local economies. What steps would you take to support small business growth while also ensuring workers receive fair pay and protections?
Small business growth by with making sure workers can see payment and protections. So
Mhm.
small businesses are the second part to the lifeblood of a community. Um, the value is of American entrepreneur. It can't be understated or overstated, right? I think that access to starting businesses is definitely a problem. Um, I think that I'm trying to find a word to articulate this the right way, um, so it doesn't come off the wrong way. Um, but I think I'm going to say that we need to redefine what we call a small business, right? Because there's a difference between a franchisee and a mom and pop shop, right? There's a difference between uh, the guy who does the lawn care, with just a pickup and a mower, and the guy who has a whole fleet of machinery to do those kinds of things, right? But right now, in tax code and in law, there are things that make those things essentially the same. So to promote that boat, I think I would kind of look at and examine the barriers to access to creating small businesses, and then looking at some of the obstacles that new small business startups and like legit small businesses, right? Like because that definition is always screwy to me, and that's kind of the part I don't want to mess up there because I don't want to be disrespectful to any entrepreneurs out there. But like I said, there's a difference between a franchise where you had to put up a couple $1 million capital, and the guy who is taking all of his 401k and starting a pizza parlor or a car wash, a mobile car wash at that, right? That's different from the young lady who goes to school to be an esthetician, is doing facials and eyebrows in the basement, versus the lady or man, whoever it is who is putting up uh, a Great Clips franchise in the neighborhood. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I think we need to examine what we're calling a small business and how that works, because
Absolutely.
a lot of those people who are startup, the real startup small businesses are people who work a full-time job so they can maintain their small business or maintain their household while they're trying to chase this thing we call the American dream.
Yep. Host, can you put me on the big screen real quick? Um, hold on, let me change that. Mm, give me 1 second.
Take your time. Hi, host. Thank you for all your hard work tonight.
I know, right? Okay. So this is what you said. This is exactly what you
Yeah,
said, Marty. All we have to do
absolutely.
is stand up, and their game is
Absolutely.
over. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, and their
Absolutely.
little
And
game is
so
over.
here's the thing about it, right? Because when you say something like that, people think you're being extreme or you're being radical or you're being crazy. But no, all you got to do is show up and talk to your local elected official and show up in numbers. All you got to do is talk to all your friends and family and stress to them how important your vote is, right? Because we can flip the table over by voting. Like it's that simple. Like it don't. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not shedding tears for toilet paper factories, right? but we don't have to go there, right? And if they bring that to us, that's what they cost, right? But we don't have to go there. I mean, all we got to do is go to the ballot box and we can flip that table over.
Yep. Oh, okay. Well, so last question. As this has been a very, very great town hall, have enjoyed every moment of it. Um, in one sentence, what is your vision for District 63?
I'm going to encompass my vision simply by saying that I want to put the solid back in solidarity. Okay. Um, because solidarity, it ain't looking like it used to. You know, right now, what we're calling solidarity wouldn't get us a Voting Rights Act. You know, now what we're calling solidarity wouldn't get us women's suffrage. You know, now what we're call this thing that we call solidarity now wouldn't get us a Civil Rights Act.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it wouldn't even get a Roe v. Wade decision done. You know what I
Correct.
mean?
Yep.
Um, so, you know, we got to bring it back to the people caring about one another, right? We got to bring it back to people investing in our communities, investing in each other. We got to get back to brotherhood and sisterhood. We got to get back to, we got to get beyond this allyship, right? Because you know, I despise the whole allyship thing because allies are only there when it's beneficial to them. You know what I'm saying? I
Yep.
need I need co-defendants. I need accomplices, right? I need
Accomplish.
somebody who's going to be with me through it all. You know what I'm saying? You know, I always laugh and tell people, Jenna, that's my homegirl there. You know, she I always say she's gonna be my getaway driver, right? When it's time for me to get out of here because I've already made too much noise. You know, she gonna have a car parked outside. You know what I'm saying? For me and my wife, by the way. But uh, yeah, that's just it, y'all. Like we got to put the solid back in solidarity, you know. And I've been spending time on this campaign trail, you know, talking about those kinds of things. What do I mean by that? Because a lot of people that may seem very union talk, or people may not understand, you know, if they never heard that term solidarity for. But
Yep.
essentially, we just got to get back to looking out for one another, and we got to do it together.
Absolutely. Remind the folks of how they can support you, where they can find you, how they can donate to you, help you get into this seat because you are definitely needed in that house of Missouri.
So I'm gonna say that most of my socials are at Looney for Missouri. You can check out my website. We launched it a little bit ago. Still trying to figure out where we want to go with it, but that's at looneyformissouri.com. Everything is Looney for Missouri. Looney for Missouri. Looney for Missouri. This is the people's campaign, and we are going to put the solid back in solidarity. So
Absolutely.
yes, if you go on any social media site and look up Looney for Missouri, you will find a piece of something there. And yeah, but I'm very active here on the TikTok. And y'all seem to like my stuff. Like I've never had videos get likes like this. I see why those influencer people get all giddy and you know they get stuck to it.
It's the new
Um,
way. It's the new way.
yeah, yeah. But Looney for Missouri
All
on
right.
all platforms.
Well, again, Donald, thank you so much for joining us tonight. This has been an absolute pleasure. I wish you all the best on your campaign. Um, so, again, thank you.
Thank you. It's my pleasure. And you know, I might have a few people I want to send your way too, if that's okay. But
Absolutely.
I'll
Absolutely.
add them. I'll add them. You know, I'll send that information to you. But thank you for this. I really
Perfect.
appreciate it.
Perfect. Now, Don, y'all don't go nowhere now. We got another town hall coming up in just less than 30 minutes. We will be talking to Mr. Mike Crawley. We had his town hall set the other day, but there was some miscommunication and
Mm,
we had to reschedule. But he is running for a House seat in Tennessee. So,
mm,
yes, we are trying to make sure we get in these House seats. The Republicans of these states, Missouri, Tennessee, have been going unopposed for too long. Not this time. So,
not this
um,
time.
we at 8 o'clock we will be talking with Mike Crawley finally. So I hope to see y'all then. And if y'all if Donald, I would love to have you join our roundtable. We do a roundtable every other Sunday. And I
Okay.
believe this Sunday is our next one. Yeah, I'm almost positive it's this Sunday, where we are having one. And what we do is we bring some of the candidates like yourself back, and we
Hmm.
just sit around and have a discussion about today's issues. We, we talk about what is working in the campaigns, what's not working, get ideas from each other. It's just a good old round table of great minds coming together. So make sure you keep your eyes open in your inbox or your emails
Yeah.
for that invite. And
All right.
and to anyone out there who wants to be a part of the solution, you could join Our Vote Counts. We are looking for more moderators, which is what I do, and talk to the candidates. I know it seems like really hard, but oh, you probably can't see it, but I have everything on my little tablet right here that I need to ask him. Someone does the work. Someone does that research for you. You just got to be comfortable with being on camera and having a conversation. That's it, and that's all. So if you would like to be a part of Our Vote Counts, um, please DM us, follow us, DM us, and you could be a part of the team. Let me just remind you all of who we are. We are Our Vote Counts, a nonpartisan movement uniting Americans from all walks of life to empower voters, support candidates of integrity, and ensure every voice is heard. Through education, outreach, accountability, and action, we're building a stronger democracy, one informed vote at a time. So remember to keep joining us for more town halls, because your vote, democracy, one informed vote at a time. So remember to keep joining us for more town halls, because your vote is. All right, bye-bye. Host. Right. Good help is hard to find, y'all. But thank y'all for coming through. We definitely came out there.